Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Maui and a very special edition to our Maui Live talk. We have Jess, who has inspired me. She's inspired a lot of you. Her testimony is very special. She not only lost 250 pounds, she also stopped having seizures. And we want to talk about, what her diet looked like maybe then and what it looks like now and how you got here. So welcome, Jess. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Maria and Craig, both. And hello, everyone that's watching today.
You were just in Hawaii, last week?
Just last week.
You should have taken a puddle jumper over. We could have done a live YouTube.
We could have. Next time, we'll have to do a round two.
Yep, and we'll do maybe like a cooking. I'll make you some carnivore noodles or something like that.
I just saw your protein sparing modified chicken with the carnivore rice. That's next on my list. I can't wait.
Nice.
That looks
awesome.
so good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, start out by telling us where you were prior to all this. Like, what was your situation? What was your health states?
How did you find keto?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my story, I was 31. So I've been heavy my whole life. I actually weigh less now than I did when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And I was, at a pivotal point in my career. I worked all of the time. I rarely slept. I drank too much. And it was, just before Christmas, 2016, I was in Chicago traveling. And I went to have breakfast, got up and fell and had a tonic-clonic seizure for the first time in my life. And when I woke up in a hospital bed in Chicago with a fractured shoulder and a broken foot.
And were you alone?
I was alone. At a restaurant, got rushed to a hospital. And so when this all happened, I had no idea what had occurred. And the doctor came in to talk to me, said, I can't share much with you at this point, but what I can tell you is, you've been hurt, you had a seizure. And if you happen to have another seizure and you break your leg, crutches will not support you. You will be bedridden at 31.
Ouch.
And I remember how petrified I was of what that would be like to be at that stage of my life and to not actually be able to get out of a bed. And so I started doing research while in the hospital on what diets were good for neurological health. And keto just comes up repeatedly over and over and over again. So without knowing much of anything, even the basics, even right before Christmas, I started on a keto diet. And that sort of, jump-started my whole journey. And I have only had one additional seizure since, which happened in 2018. And it had been during a period when I had stepped away from keto. I was on vacation and not sleeping, having a lot of fun, not eating well. Went off on a boat that day, came back, got back on a cruise ship and had my second seizure. And then at that time, had actually injured myself a second time and bit my lip in half and had to have surgery on the ship. And then whenever I got back home, and that was the really big game changer for me. That was when I made the decision that I would be on keto for the rest of my life, that this was really the healthiest path for me neurologically and physically, emotionally, spiritually. It fit every box I needed it to. And so for me, it really wasn't just about weight loss. It was about, living a really good, healthy life, and keto aided in that journey for me.
So you started it not to lose weight. It was for seizures.
Yes. And so I always, I tell people that's the weight loss was the best benefit I could have ever imagined. The weight just started falling off of me so quickly after I started the journey. But I never envisioned that it would do that to the degree that it did. And in 2.5 years is basically what it took. And I went from, almost 400 pounds at that point to 156 at my smallest.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Wow.
I mean, 250 pounds. That's just, you're less than half of yourself.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we provide tools, but you do the hard work, and that's amazing. Great job.
Did you ever watch the movie First Do No Harm?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Is it Meryl Streep? Her child has epilepsy, and that's I think it was in the 60s, and they did a ketogenic diet because she was on the search for trying to help him or her naturally. But that was kind of like boom, like such a big game changer. But we do work with a lot of people with seizures, and you do give us hope. Do you drink any alcohol, or did you completely stop?
During the first 2.5 years, no alcohol at all, with the exception of the one time that I was traveling. I at this stage I can, but it's you have to keep it to limited quantities. Just because the risk, but the drinking, you start to see, I know a lot of people have that challenge that tends to, because your body always has to burn off alcohol first.
Yeah. I mean, it does. I was just wondering, because some people have a different, what's that?
Just clarifying, somebody said on the weight, you were almost 400 pounds, went to 150 pounds, meaning she lost 250 pounds.
Yeah.
So just wanted to clarify for him there.
Like, what other benefits did you see? I mean, there's so many benefits, but like, could you kind of tell us like, and how fast did you see the benefits?
Yeah, I think you start to really see benefits weight loss wise. You see the water weight come off pretty quickly, right? First few weeks, you really, your body's flushing out a lot of the processed foods, the salts. So the weight, of course, that was immediate, and then that becomes more gradual. But the other benefits that I saw were the mental clarity and focus were fantastic. And I no longer had that afternoon slump. Mm-hmm. I started being able to sleep consistently through the night. I wasn't waking up every few hours. My skin was like, I never was what I would say acne prone, but I always would get, it was splotchy. I wasn't, it just wasn't as healthy. And then once you went on a keto diet and your body was eating what was really clean and good for you, you could absolutely see the difference in how you looked every day.
Your gut really shows outwards. It really does. Your skin shows a lot about what your gut is doing.
Yes. And then the inflammation and swelling overall. I mean, you don't have as much of it whenever you eat what your body desires and needs.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's awesome.
So what during the process, what were some of your favorite recipes or things that you went to with this lifestyle that really helped keep you on track?
Everybody likes to talk about food, so let's talk about some food things.
Love food. Gotta love food. Well, so how I got connected to Maria was actually, I was given a cookbook of Maria's, and I've owned the ketogenic cleanse. I have the protein sparing modified one from online, and then there's one other one. Was it your recipe restaurant?
Restaurant. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, the restaurant one's fantastic. So, what I found for me, and I will cook and I will take the time to do that, but I tend to keep things really simple. Mm-hmm. I recognize I'm a food addict. And for me, getting really elaborate, indulgent meals isn't super healthy for me. Mm-hmm. So that to me is more of kind of a rare treat. So about once a week or so, I'll eat something that's a little bit more extravagant. Yeah. And that will include sometimes like keto chocolate, keto dessert, like your hard-boiled egg.
The pudding.
The pudding.
Yeah, so that's great.
It's like every interview we do with somebody talks about the pudding.
Yep.
That's so
well, and I have to be careful. I'll eat the whole thing, but my regular diet, I typically do IF in the morning. I don't usually eat for the first 4 or 5 hours, and then I eat when I'm hungry. That's always my rule. I got away from this concept of breakfast, lunch, and dinner a long time ago. I think it's not a healthy concept, and it's very American, as they say, right?
Yeah.
So usually my first meal, because I sleep really well, I'm usually up around 4 in the morning. And I'll get my first meal usually in that 9 to 11 window. It's almost always a salad. Mm-hmm. It's a salad with chopped up veggies and a protein. And then my later meal in the day, usually in that 5 to 6 window, is another protein and a vegetable.
Yeah.
And that's usually all I need. One of the best tips I give to folks when it comes to how do I maintain a keto diet, it seems very labor intensive, is every weekend I get whatever vegetables I find on sale, whatever sounds good that week, and I chop all different types of things. I always will sous vide chicken. I'll always hard boil eggs, and then I have just containers in my fridge. And then whether I'm wanting an omelet or I want a salad, I just open up those containers and I make whatever I need, and then I'm good to go. So my meals take 5 minutes.
Because you're busy, right? Like you're a busy working woman.
That's a really good point too about preparing. And I think, the key to success is planning ahead, preparing. So you're not stuck in that situation where you're like, crap, I'm hungry and there's nothing here to eat. So that's great. I'm always
and not feeling like you have to have the fancy. You don't have to have fancy meals. You really don't. You have to I almost got to the point, this is one of those human moments of, I felt that I had to disconnect from my love of food and that food was nourishment for me. That every single social interaction that I had, every moment of joy was always tied to what was I eating. And I had to learn that joy comes from more than food, as much as I love food, which I truly do. But, it's just so much more important that you're taking in what nourishes you than what you love.
I think that's why, we've done more of the carnivore, and a lot of people go towards carnivore because, you're doing vegetables and meat, because there's a fine balance to enjoying what you're eating.
Yes.
Where it becomes an obsession, and, it's nourishment. And I think that's where our life, it's so funny because I write these recipes that are very exotic and whatever, but we gotta eat the same thing. And it's very simple. It's like tenderloin and
a little steak and eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, it's
very simple.
And I just have to remember to take something out of the freezer, the night before, because it's usually meat, and then it takes 5 minutes because, like, we're like you, we're always busy, and it's just, some people think that planning your meals ahead of time is, what is it called, orthorexia? It's an eating disorder.
No, it's being prepared.
We plan for so many things of our life. Why wouldn't we plan for success of a diet either?
It's so true. Well, and I'll keep little baggies of cheese in my fridge. I keep little containers that I can throw, nuts into, or the little keto, chocolate pieces that, I get from Chalk Zero, or, just any number of things. And it's because, to your point, we're all so busy. I think the other side of it being that I will make myself once a week eat something, like you have a lettuce wrap that's in your restaurant book, right, that I love. And it's, I will make myself cook myself something that's a little better, or even eat out at something that's a little different than I would make at home, only because you don't want to get so bored that then you feel like you're cheated.
Yeah. And I think what's really important too to understand is, keto diet, people out there in this, it gets such a bad name, the keto diet, in certain areas in standard media. But look what we're talking about. We're talking about meat and low carb vegetables. Look at your diet, a beautiful salad with some protein, later some protein with some low carb veggies. What's extreme about that? Like, it's nothing. It's not, the bad name that keto gets.
The
it's just
Fruit
kind of
Loops
crazy.
is better than a steak for you, or eggs. That's
well, there's some of that. It's really skewed. I just like that, your diet is such a great example of what keto can be. Just a clean, simple, some low carb vegetables and protein. Like, it's great.
And I think the other side, Craig, to your point is it's easy to prepare. You have to train your brain to do it. You have to remember, I just got back from the flight to Hawaii, and they served dinner. There was nothing I could eat on that tray. Yeah. And I hadn't thought, when they were going to bring me, a breaded chicken quinoa dish with fruit that wasn't low carb, bread and butter. And I thought, well, I can eat butter. But I thought to myself, that is, so the butter went in the coffee, but then, in my bag I had, coming from Hawaii, I couldn't have produce, but I, brought my pork rinds, brought my nuts, brought my, so is it a meal I would normally have consumed? No, but it's better than feeling stuck. You just don't want to get to that point. You feel stuck.
No, exactly. I actually saw on TikTok, there was a flight attendant that said, even though I do usually very short flights, you will never catch me without snacks in my bag, because you never know what happens. Like, you get stuck on that plane and it's like, I thought about that because I was like, oh, I don't need anything. It's like, oh yeah, I always have like my protein powder and some other things in there, beef sticks. But that reminds me, when we were here, we were on our way here, and it's a long flight. It's about 8 hours. Again, there's always a meal served. And my son, my older one's like, no, thank you. He told the steward, the flight attendant, and he proceeded to eat like, I don't know, 10 beef sticks, but they're like a sugar-free beef stick. Like
organic, sugar-free,
and he was sitting in front of me, and she comes to me. She's like, your son has not eaten a meal, and he's eating like 10 beef sticks. And he won't take any of my snacks
like
either.
She was telling on him.
She brought the snacks around too, and he won't take
chips and stuff.
I was like, do you want to talk about nutrition, lady? Because we can go. It's sad. It's like what airplanes give you and what hospitals give you. It's like, oh my word. No.
Hospitals are just as bad. The standard American diet has failed us tremendously. And but it's the reason so many of us are challenged with weight. Anytime I take in anything that's processed, which is rare, but when I do, I always feel it after the fact.
Yeah, it's crazy because, the standard American diet has gotten everybody's view of what diet should be or what diet is so skewed that something as simple, the way we've done keto all along, which is just whole foods, meat and low carb vegetables, that is now looked at as kind of extreme, which is just insane when you think about it. Like, that should be normal.
Yeah. We had someone on the cover of Women's World magazine, one of our clients, and they said, Twyla lost 200 and some pounds on ultra keto. I was like, it's just real food. It's not the Duncan Hines keto, right?
Yeah, it's not some extreme thing.
Yeah, it's not the bacon and low carb wrap version of
keto. Eating sticks of butter and all that kind of stuff that you see in certain areas. No. Well, a question here actually, which I think is kind of interesting, is they're new and they're wondering what level of carbs we are at. And now I talked about us, we're typically below like 20 grams of total carbs a day. How about you? Where are you usually at in your diet now?
So when I lost the weight, I kept between 20 and 25 max.
Yeah.
And
I was much more structured. I'm sorry.
You counted total or net? Total, right?
Yes, total. Yeah. I rarely went over that. And I also, towards the end of my weight loss, limited my dairy intake because I started to notice that it was inhibiting my weight loss. I think just purely from a caloric intake perspective. At this stage, more in maintenance, I will have some dairy, mostly, hard cheeses, occasionally a little bit of whipping cream. For my once a week meal, I'll have that heavy whipping cream. But at this point, I really have gotten focused on listening to my body in what I eat, because if you listen, it will tell you how much you really are needing. And so I still find I would probably venture to guess that the days I go over 20 are rare. They're few and far between. But the probably the more general is probably in that 10 to 15 range, because it's mostly just meat and then green veggies.
Yeah. Simple.
Did your family change their diet, whether it be your parents or anybody? Did they kind of change what they were eating or not so much?
I've had a few people in my life that went on keto after me that did really well. And it was a huge inspiration for me to see their journeys. And they've had varying degrees of success, and some will go back. And as I tell people, it never leaves you when you get those basics, those fundamentals in your mind. You can set yourself up for success. It's always there when you go back, right? And not everyone will do it like the three of us will every day for the rest of their lives. But I'm sorry, Maria, you asked me, what was the question?
If your family kind of...
my family. So you know what, my family, I'll share this. This is really endearing. So I come from a large family. And when I first started this, it was, what do you mean you're going to eat all this fat? What do you mean you're going to eat all this meat and you're going to be healthy? Your brain's going to be healthy and you think you might lose weight. And what?
Yeah.
This was a crazy concept. They knew about Atkins, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
And, but as they started to see, and they knew the reasons, they knew it was for neurological health. Every birthday and holiday, they always made sure there was things there I could eat. Always.
Oh, awesome.
I'm still waiting for that.
Are you still waiting?
That's great.
It even, and as I would tell them, listen, if there's a meat and there's some lettuce there, I can make do. Please don't worry about me.
That's so cool.
But it is really endearing that there's always the thought of, let's just make sure something's there for Jess. And I would say for anyone that has a family member, sometimes it's just having one thing can mean the world.
Yeah,
definitely. That's great.
We're just like, our family is not like that. I mean, if you're watching, it's true, so we just make sure to bring stuff, whether it be deviled eggs. And, I usually make a dessert that, my kids could have, like my flourless chocolate torte, super easy. I can throw it together in like a hotel room. It's like no big deal.
Bring your own salad and just kind of, make sure we have something at least that we're bringing that we know we can eat. And
other people like it too.
Yeah. If there's more, great. But we have to tend to plan a little bit more ahead. But again, planning, that's what gets you to success, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mental health, my neurological health was a good driving force. But I think anyone, there's certainly the risk of offending family members whenever you show up and everything at a holiday is orange or beige or some version of this, right? And I grew up in the Midwest, and so everything was covered in gravy or fried. And, and I think anyone, though, whether you have neurological challenges or not, should feel empowered enough to say, I'm just taking care of my body. You don't have to focus on, I'm just trying to lose weight. I'm just taking care of my body and I feel better when I eat this way. All of us should feel strong enough to be able to say that to someone. Mm-hmm. And if it offends them, that's on them, not on you.
Exactly. And if it makes you feel better, I understand and connect with your why of, your health and preventing seizures. Myself, I have a lot of chronic pain due to my Lyme disease and ankylosing spondylitis. And if I do deviate too much, I feel it. I'll if I get too much spicy food or, spices, my pain will go up. And so it's a constant reminder to me that I need to stay on track, but it's also my why, and so that helps motivate me to stay on track. And I like, having that motivation.
But you would think that family members would see that and know that and help out, but it's fine. But someone, I have to say, Trish she did a shout out. She said, Maria brings her bread and throws it to you when she speaks, which I do. I try to make the protein sparing bread, the rolls, and then I'll throw it into the audience for people to catch.
Give it a try.
I don't know. You might as well.
But I thought Trish was kidding, but that's fantastic. I haven't seen you throw bread rolls.
Yeah, sometimes I get smashed in my suitcase on the way there, but it's just something fun to break the ice. But
first time I ever made your protein sparing modified bread, you have to beat that dish for 47 hours. Not really, but you have to, you got to get a good solid, peak on the whipped eggs. And the first time I baked it and it was done, I ate the whole loaf in one day.
It's all protein.
But all of the calories, I was still fine. I was still fine, but I ate sandwiches all day long.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So when there's a doctor in this field that says, Maria, I can't make your bread because I would eat the whole thing. He's a food addict. He's admitted this. He's a doctor. And I said, who cares? It's I don't know, 200 calories. You do the whole loaf, right? Because I'll eat a half a loaf in a sitting all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I actually, my one of my greatest indulgences whenever I make your bread is I actually use all natural almond butter, and I get the sugar-free, the stevia sweetened jam, and I'll make toasted peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and it's so good.
Oh,
there you go.
Great.
See, mine is sloppy Joe. I like sloppy joe.
There you go.
I like it because I can make a big batch and store it in the freezer, and then if I feel like a sloppy joe day, it's just I feel like a
Quick
little
and
kid
easy.
when I eat that.
Yeah.
Just I don't know. I just love it.
I might need to do sloppy joes later. That sounds really good.
Well, what I was going to say.
I'm going to be
too,
hungry at the end of our podcast.
Wow, there you go. No, but another thing too, I just thought of is the chocolate pudding. If you do the protein sparing version of the chocolate pudding,
whole thing.
then you can eat the whole thing because again, it's not a lot of calories and it's mostly protein.
Yeah, so I like that filling feeling.
You can indulge without having going off track.
And that's something about like keto. A lot of the foods that people jump to in the beginning, like cheese and nuts, like you were mentioning, they're very caloric dense, like you were saying. And that's why I try to make those recipes that are very volume and very light in calories. Because no matter what people say, calories do matter, whether you're on a keto or carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And I like that volume and that feeling of being full because it's hard to get that fullness on a block of cheese.
Yeah.
Without seeing the
or not
just
like
constipated.
Yeah. He's never seemed to get full on that.
Yeah.
Well, and how many, I mean, and so many of these recipes, it's like use a whole brick of cream cheese. Well, a brick of cream cheese is 800 plus calories, right? So you've just, your whole day, that's just the base of whatever you're making before you do anything.
Exactly. I have to mention there's a carnivore bread that's out there that I just saw somebody post, and I'm not going to call anybody out.
Don't talk about that.
But I did the calories on it, and it's got almost 5,000 calories in the loaf. Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
A lot of fat.
It's like a couple sticks of butter, a bunch of stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe it tastes great, but wow.
That's like pay the price for that.
Are you familiar with Dr. Ted Neiman?
I think I know Dr. Ted Neiman.
He's a doctor in Seattle, awesome guy. He does a lot of the protein sparing stuff. And I remember him speaking on the low carb cruise with me. And he was talking about people with the heavy cream. He's like, you're not gaining weight on heavy cream because of the one carb in
the cream.
Because there's one carb per tablespoon or whatever. And some people are like, oh, I'm gaining weight, but those carbs add up. He's like, it's not the carbohydrates, it's the calories, like, come on, people. And it's just true.
Yeah.
I am with you though, Maria, on the volume. So that's the other reason why the salads and the omelets are so great. It's very hard to eat enough omelet or enough salad unless you're pouring dressing on top to get so many calories that you don't either lose weight or maintain. So when I'm having a moment, when I know that I'm challenged by my food addiction, when I know that I need, or I feel that I need more than what I would normally eat to be full.
Yeah.
The guilt shifts a bit. And I still will tell myself, you don't need all of that. But if I happen to have a tough moment, I'm okay. And I don't have to wake up the next day and feel bad because I ate something I shouldn't have, or, it's really just the recognition that, there's so many worse decisions I could be making.
Thank you for opening up and saying that. That's very kind
of
you.
And it's great that you found the avenue that works for you, that you can still have those things and yet stay on track. And that's the thing that, everybody's in this lifestyle. It's all got to be individualized, not only for you and what you like, but also for your goals. For example, you got to a point where your goals of weight loss, the dairy was holding you back and you had to cut it down to cut down the fat a little more in the diet to get to your goals. Now you can add it back in occasionally because you're in maintenance. So I think that's something really important people need to understand too, is what your goal is changes how you address your diet too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So your feelings on cheat days are non-existent, right? Because they would cause.
Well, I was getting ready to say, so cheat days are very rare for me. What my cheat days would look like would be very different than most people's cheat days.
Yeah.
So I had, when my brother and sister-in-law renewed their wedding vows in Vegas, I had a bite of cake with them, right? Because it was a wedding, it was their wedding. And I can think back, there have been a few occasions where I've had a little bit of something. I always pay the price for it. But my cheat days at this juncture are very minimal, and it'll be like a spoonful of corn or a spoonful of black beans or a small amount of sweet potato. And, it's never, I'm running by McDonald's and getting a meal, or I am eating, a piece of cake a cake from Costco. It's very small amounts of something. And, I never I feel like when you have the cheat days, for me at least, there's always the risk because I know what being consistent on keto does for me health-wise,
Mm-hmm.
that the venturing off, I don't really desire it. I don't miss the things I used to have because it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just don't need much. But even my cheat days don't look like most people's. You know, it's always, I always try to eat what comes out of the ground or once had an eye or came from something with an eye.
That's a good philosophy. I like that. Well, and in general, we talk about this too, of it becomes a lot easier when I can't have that, turns into I don't want that. And that I think is a big evolution.
Well, and you have to, you know, when you get on keto and you're strict about it, the pasta doesn't look appealing because you immediately think to yourself, oh man, I am not going to feel good tomorrow.
No,
it's almost as if you're hungover the next day. Like your body hurts, you don't sleep, you don't feel good. And, you know, take the weight out of the equation completely. Just take what your body's telling you, which is I'm burning off something I don't like. Yeah. And you've conditioned me to take on all this food that's really good for me. So, you know, it's your body will always tell you, take me back on that journey.
I just don't think people realize how good they can feel. And that's another thing. Like I'm kind of on this journey to maybe put a few pounds on. And I'm like, I don't think I could. I took a group of people to, Italy and Croatia this last year. And, some people had gelato. I don't care. But I looked at it like, I don't think I could actually eat that. I don't think I could. Like, not that I want it, but like I always loved ice cream, but I like my ice cream. I don't think it's worth feeling awful to have that moment of pleasure of eating it. I'd rather just wait till I get home and have a whole thing of ice cream that I made.
With all the really good ingredients and the heavy whipping cream and
Tastes way better.
And it never tastes as good, Maria, because your body, you always think this is pasta made in Italy, for crying out loud. It's going to be amazing, right? Or it's ice cream gelato that's, had this 1,000-year-old recipe, and then you taste it and you think, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's food. Yeah, mine's better. And it just, you've learned what tastes better.
I love that you went down this rabbit hole, because I do think people are kind of stuck. And I was like that. How am I supposed to get past these cravings and what I want, And now I really do. Like, I hated steak. Like I was like, nope, never gonna eat that. And now sometimes I eat it twice a day. Like I just
crave it.
Well, your palates do change. Your taste buds turn over about every 15 days. So it really, physically, you have to get over that 15 days of your cravings. But emotionally, it's going to take probably years to get past those cravings and those mental blocks that make you want to go back to that. And the people around you. Like, I'm very lucky that I have a husband that eats this way, and my kids, they're at the beach sometimes playing with kids, and you're like, that's just sugar. I'm like, let's just make friends. We don't need to educate anybody,
But
it's not a teachable. Every moment's teachable, but it doesn't need to be today, right? I refer to it as the movable middle. So you have people that are genuinely interested, that want to learn.
Yeah.
And so they come to you and ask questions, and they're in the movable middle. But then you have people that are so extreme on the opposite side that you're never going to convince them that keto is a healthy way of living because of the fat or the calories or whatever. And then you have some that are totally bought in. But I never, when they're on the extreme, I don't even feel the need to have the conversation.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I don't feel the need to seek out the other. Like, I don't go to vegan websites and be like, your diet's not healthy for you.
They certainly come to us.
Live and let live, but they certainly come to us and say, your diet's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Just eat what you want, and I'll eat what I want.
Right.
Let's just all, we all have a seat at the table. This is the seat we choose has steak on it, and your seat doesn't. And that's okay.
Right.
But, one of the things I think is so important that you've mentioned about whenever you talk to, you go to your family functions and they don't necessarily accommodate your way of living. I cook for my parents every week, and they're at their sunset years. They're in their older stages of life, and mom and dad are never going to adopt how I eat. They're just not. Mm-hmm. And my mom is very carb heavy. Dad will do a little more, stir fry, veggies, broccoli with chicken. But when I when I cook for them, you know, I finally have gotten to the point I can make anything, no problem. And I'm not tempted. If you look in my pantry, I look like I'm a Midwesterner because of my parents, right? You would never guess that I'm on a keto diet by looking in my pantry. But when I bake for a long time, and this is what I would tell people that are, you know, trying to navigate this world, and yet they still need to cook for people that, you know, maybe they need to deliver something, or maybe they are cooking for parents, or whatever the case is.
We have some that own bakeries.
Some that own bakeries. One of the things I learned for myself when I first started, because I love to bake. For anyone that watches what I do, I love to go into the kitchen and bake things, most of which I can't eat. I learned that I had to bake things that were whole. I couldn't cook brownies or cupcakes or anything that I could deliver 11 of, and nobody would know the difference, even though I baked 12.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to get, you talked about the emotional. It takes 15 days to create new habits and break bad ones, but the emotional side doesn't ever go away. And it takes years, and you still have moments where it will come up out of nowhere. And, you know, each of us has what I refer to as triggers. And so if you know that's a trigger, don't bake that thing, bake something that's whole, knowing you have to deliver that whole thing. That was just
that makes sense.
Me, I realized.
No,
that's a really good eye-opening tip. I'm going to tell you on the opposite end. So I'm the only one who eats my flourless chocolate torte, and it's very rare that I have it. But when I make it, instead of making the whole thing, I put it into ramekins, and I only bake one at a time. The rest go in the freezer. Because if I would bake the whole thing, another bite, and it's gone. And I feel, whether it's keto or not, it's too much. It's just too much. I don't feel good, right? And so I always would only bake, because by the time I finished one, I would have to thaw it, bake it, and, you know, let it rest before I ate it. I'm not going to wait an hour to have another bite, right? So baking one at a time, kind of my tip of the day for that.
A great way to do it. So if it's just for you, it's small.
There you go. Yeah. And I think too, you know, what you touched on earlier with your cheat days being, you know, a little bit of this or that, and not really going into like eating a muffin or a cupcake or, you know, something like that. We get so many people, and this is the emotional or physical side of, or food addiction side of it, really, that, you know, they have that one cupcake, they do give into it,
and they're gone.
And we don't hear from them for 6 months. And then they come back and they gained all the weight back. And that one cupcake leads to the next one, leads to 6 months.
Oh, it was a Girl Scout cookie for a nut. I mean, just like
that trigger food, just like you said, if identifying those trigger foods for you and just completely avoiding those.
For so many of us, you know, when you have a significant amount of weight to lose, you know, I start to say significant, but I would say my 250 could be somebody else's 15.
Yeah.
Because your battle with weight is your battle with weight. And nobody's is worse than anybody else's. We're all in a different place in life as to how it impacts us. But when it comes to losing weight, it's 90% mental and 10% physical. You have to get your brain right. You have to surround yourself with good people. You have to deal with the baggage that you've accumulated over the years and unpack it. You have to get therapy when you need it. You have to deal with body dysmorphia as you lose weight and you see skin hanging in places that it didn't hang before. You know, you have to be comfortable acknowledging that things don't fit like they once did. When people ask you questions that maybe you're not prepared to answer, it is truly a transition for anyone that loses weight, especially a great amount of weight. And so for anyone that's listening, either on the recorded later or through this live, you know, always just remember that wellness and health are derived here, not here. And that is where you always have to place your focus. Get your brain right.
That's great.
That's what I always tell people.
So
just
well
get your brain right.
It's such a great tip. My last question was, what's the biggest tip? And I think
we just got it.
I think we just got the biggest tip, because that's really deep and very good.
Yeah. Put yourself first. You have to put yourself, people are not great about this. They, there's kids and parents and dogs and lives and work. You are of no value to anyone else if you don't take care of yourself. And if you get in this, getting into an optimal place and from a health and wellness perspective, you are your very best self for everyone else. So just don't forget to put you at the top of your priority.
That is such
Absolutely.
a good thing to end on, because I do believe I was the other way before, but in the past, even when I had kids, no, I'm going to prepare my meal and everybody's meal, so we at least eat well, which will cause us to be better people to each other. We will be able to help better people better. So like if a neighbor needs my help and like I don't have anything ready, like I'm sorry, I'm going to do this and then I can help you, because
Take care of yourself first.
Yeah, you have to. That's such a great
That's why
point.
they always say on the plane to put on your own breathing mask first. And yet so many of us will put the other person's on before we put our own.
Yeah,
it's true.
Totally.
It's true.
So awesome. Well,
thank you so much for your Saturday morning, afternoon, whatever. It's morning still for us, but we're very, very grateful for you. You've been such an inspiration to so many people, and we're very grateful. So thank you again, Jessica.
Thank you, Maria and Craig, and thank you to everyone that watched and listened. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.